Welcome, everyone. I'm Rebecca Vanook, the Executive Director of Library Reads, and welcome to the 18th installment. Wow, a year and a half we've been doing these. 18th installment of the Mystery at the Library Book Club series, brought to you by Sourcebooks and Baker and Taylor. Now, as I said, I'm the Executive Director of Library Reads, and I don't want to take up too much of our hour talking about that. Most of you probably are already familiar with it. Tonight's book was just on our January 2022 list. You can find that at our website, which is www.libraryreads.org. And you'll be able to find the current list, which is March 22, the archive lists going back for 9 years now. We've been doing this, and you can find out all about us and how to participate. That is at libraryreads.org. So, as I said, welcome to the 18th installment of Mystery at the Library Book Club. We are also streaming on Facebook Live, so welcome to our Facebook friends. I am thrilled to be here tonight with Eva Jurczyk, author of the January 22 Library Reads Pick, Department of Rare Books and Special Collections. Now, before I begin, we do have our usual housekeeping items to share. If you've got questions tonight for Eva, please utilize the Google form that is going to be linked in the chat box. We're going to have author questions later in the evening, so don't forget to submit those questions, because when you ask a question or participate in the poll that happens about halfway through, you will be entered to win a mystery book bundle courtesy of our friends at Sourcebooks. The winners will be announced at the conclusion. So let's get right into tonight's chat with Eva. Eva Jurczyk is a writer and librarian living in Toronto. She has written for Jezebel, The Awl, The Rumpus, and Publishers Weekly. The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections is her first novel. Hello, Eva. I am so happy that you're here with us tonight.
Hello, Rebecca. I'm so excited to be here with you and with everyone who's participating. I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled to have been on the Library Reads list. What a thrill that was.
Yes, I always feel like books that, I mean, first of all, right, the cover. You've got girl with books, always a hit. Books about libraries and library folks, always a hit. So, and it's a great mystery. So we were not at all surprised to see it hit the list. But yes, it's definitely a Library Reads type book for sure. So let's actually get right into that, talking about libraries a little bit. So you yourself are not just an author, you are also a librarian. So tell us a little bit about that, your library career, and particularly, how have your experiences in libraries kind of shaped your writing? We'd like to know more about that.
Sure. So I'm a librarian now, but I'm not a rare books librarian. I'm not that cool, unfortunately. When I was a graduate student, I had the opportunity to work at my university's rare books library, and I really just stumbled into the job. Most of the people who worked there had been there for decades, spoke multiple languages, had advanced degrees, really had this amazing depth of knowledge in the work that they were doing. And I just happened to speak a couple of Eastern European languages that they needed and had no other qualifications. And it just so, they needed someone who read these languages. So it was great. And they gave me a job. So I really stepped into it from the position of an outsider. And I think that because I had that sort of outside view, I was just so in awe of the work that they were doing in a way that I think that they almost took for granted. They spent their days with these treasures every day, and that had just been part of their reality for 30, 40 years. And while they were excited and passionate about the work they were doing, I don't think that they understood really how cool it was to an outside observer. And so I come into this job and I might have a first edition Charles Dickens sit on my desk one day, or I might go down to get something from the stacks and see, Frederick Banting's Nobel Prize, or, ride in the elevator with Shakespeare's first folio. And it's
another day at the office.
just another day, right? Some papyrus scrolls. Yeah, no big deal. And so, what an insane work experience. I'll never experience anything more magical than that. So I was really I was really struck by it, and I learned whatever I could from these people, because while the place and the collections were really interesting, the people were too, because they had worked together for so long. They had these deep, sometimes complicated relationships with one another. And that was interesting too. A thing that I think is sort of unusual about libraries is it's one of the last jobs where you often stay forever. The way that employment works now, I talk to my friends, they'll switch companies every 5 years or so. It's the way to move up. And libraries aren't really like that. Really often, a lot of your staff will spend their whole career with one library or one library system. And that's a long time to develop complicated relationships. And that was a thing that I got to observe too. So I really loved that, all that. And yeah, it really helped inform the writing. I spent a lot of the time that I was working at the library in these basements, because while the library that I worked at is really a landmark in the city of Toronto, it's a beautiful, ugly from the outside, it's a brutalist structure, 1960s, what can we do? But inside, it's a cathedral to books. It's wonderful. Well, the part that I loved wasn't the beautiful part. I loved these 2 layers of basements that stretch, football fields long, that had these haphazard rolling shelves where you could really get lost down there. And because I spent so much time working there, it was a little bit creepy too. So it's hard not to let your imagination run away with, ideas when you're working down for hours, you don't see another person, maybe you hear some footsteps, there's, the stories start brewing.
Interesting. So have you had the idea for this book since you were working there, or tell us a little bit, like, were you always kind of, I love the way you just described that, like these 2 basement levels, football fields long, kind of creepy. So did you kind of think to yourself, you could set a mystery here, and so has it been brewing for a while, or maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, in a way I'd say so. I think I knew that I wanted to write about the place and the people, because they were so cool and interesting. So, and then when I thought about, well, what kind of story would take place in a setting like this, and a mystery just seemed like the most natural fit, because like I said, it was a creepy and mysterious place. But I think, a lot of the average person probably doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about rare books libraries. Public libraries, yes, but a rare books library, regular person on the street, how often are you thinking about that?
Right.
When you think about a rare books library, it's probably because something's gone wrong. So every couple of years, Vanity Fair, somebody will put out one of these long form pieces talking about a theft, something that's being stolen. And it'll be, a real psychological portrait of the person who stole it, or it'll tell you all the intricacies about how something was stolen. And that's when rare books libraries enter our brains, if you're not working with something like that day to day, or if you're not, a book collector yourself. So that's what I was thinking about, when someone who's a reader is encountering one of these places, they're probably doing it because it's a mystery. So I thought about that really early on, and I liked the image of opening that safe and finding that nothing is in there. I really like that's something that I had really early on. So
okay.
Yeah, so I think that in writing the book and thinking about it and constructing it, because I didn't start writing it until I'd been gone from that library for 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer. Yeah, so I was thinking certainly about the setting and the character for a long time, and thinking about what kind of story would make sense here, and the mystery just made perfect sense. And it was a lot of fun to let those characters run amok once I decided that I was gonna stick them in a mystery.
And let's talk about those characters for a second then. Sure. So Liesl is our librarian, and her colleagues have kind of a, let's say, quirky, maybe sharp-elbowed nature.
Fair to say.
Is that, right?
Yeah.
Did you draw on any of your time in that library to get some of these personalities, or you don't have to be like, yes, this particular person and call it out here. So are these personalities that maybe you've come across? Did you embellish a little bit? Tell us a little bit more about some of these characters.
Sure. So I would, Lauren Groff the writer, said something that I really appreciate and I hold on to. She said that she's taken everyone that she's ever met and held them upside down by the ankles and shaken out all their, characteristics and things
I love that.
that she could take from them. She said it more eloquently than I did. I should nail the quote. So I would be lying if I didn't admit that certainly, did I work with a man who was attached to his Discman way longer than that was a form of technology than the rest of us were using? Yes. Was there a gentleman with a Spanish brogue who I still don't know whether he was once in the Foreign Intelligence Services? Yes. So those things are true, when thinking about the sort of characteristics of some of these people and their quirks. Yes, I definitely took those. But on the other hand, to my knowledge, and I'm pretty confident about this, none of those people were perpetrating large-scale theft. I'm pretty sure that none of them were involved in decades-long emotional affairs with one another. I mean, can't say that with 100% confidence, but I've given it a lot of thought, and I'm pretty sure. And so while I took these characteristics, and certainly people that I've worked with since the book have come out, I've gotten some emails as people who write books do. But what I think that we've chatted about, and people who were sort of on the periphery have chatted about, that when you're putting something in fiction, it always has to be elevated, or it has to be weirder, bigger, somebody has to be meaner, something has to be stranger by like 15 to 30%. Yeah. So I think the character of President Garber is the best example of that. So there was a figure in administration that I kind of, didn't work with. I didn't know the man, but I kind of looked at him from afar, and he had replaced someone who was a very traditional sort of figure in administration, had the car pick them up every day, wore really fine suits, perfectly coiffed hair, all that. And he came in with his bicycle. He's always riding his bike. He would walk on campus. He had the little Velcro strips around his cuffs, sort of casual guy. But I thought that was interesting because that was sort of performative too. That was just sort of a different type of wealth on display. And in the book, he is training for an Ironman. He always has his little bicycle helmet and his thing of trail mix. Obviously, a university president would not behave in that way. But just the bicycle wasn't weird enough. So I needed to give him something weirder to do. So that's, it's a line. Yeah, I stole characteristics from the people, I borrowed characteristics from people that I worked with, but there's no one-to-ones, there's not this person is this person. It's more, I picked and chose interesting things as I saw them and then made them as weird as I could.
Got it. Well, it's very effective. So now let's talk specifically about Liesl for a minute. So one of the interesting things about Liesl is she is actually a librarian who has almost made it to retirement. So that is not, I think that's something we don't see enough of in contemporary fiction. A lot of it is really, really young folks, or else you get the really, really senior folks. Like there's not a lot of middle-aged characters, especially women. There's not a lot of late middle age, retirement. So why did you decide, you could have made her like a flighty, brand newly minted, recently graduated librarian, or you could have made her, younger, but did you choose that, or did she appear that way to you? I always like to kind of find out how these characters come to life in an author's brain.
I wanted very much for her to be at this almost retirement point in her career. That was really important to me. I think you're right. I could have made a flighty new librarian. Right. I think the decisions that character would have made when navigating the situation probably wouldn't have been that interesting to write or to read. Like you can predict how a person like that might respond to that situation. Not that interesting. I could have made her mid-career, could have made her like myself, but frankly, if I were to write a book about someone in my stage of life, they would leave work at exactly 4:30 every day, race to pick up their kid from kindergarten and go home and make some mac and cheese. And like, it's not that interesting. It's not that interesting out here. Not a lot of time for solving crimes, and I'm not doing a lot of that. But with someone like Liesl, I mean, there's so much opportunity there. She has this long life, you know, professional experience, maybe 30, 40 years of professional experience in which she's seen a lot. She's made a lot of mistakes. She understands a lot about the consequences of every path in a way that a different character wouldn't have. And I thought that that was really interesting. She's making decisions that you wouldn't necessarily make, and they're informed by this lifetime of experiences. And I really wanted to get to write that. And she has, because she's had all these experiences, she made these mistakes, she's been in and out of love, she's encountered so many different people in her life. You get to add little nuggets of that too throughout her story. And, you know, with the women of that age that I've encountered in my life, with women I know and women that I don't really know, you meet them in a fitting room or something like that. There's sort of this frequent running joke that you become invisible at a certain age. Like, oh, doesn't matter what this dress looks like. No one looks at me anyway. And I find that so interesting. And I've heard people say that to me for years. And that was a thing that I wanted to explore too, that at a certain age, as a woman, you fade into wallpaper. Physically, people don't look at you, but, you know, in the case of Liesel, intellectually too, she's in charge, and yet no one's listening to her voice. She's giving instructions which people aren't paying attention to. I really wanted to explore that in writing, mostly because I wanted some help wrapping my head around it. And I don't think that I got anywhere. You know, I haven't landed in a firm place where I understand this better now, but at least I got to spend some time with the idea. And if you're talking about a character like Liesel, she's solving a crime, then maybe that invisibility can be an asset to her. Because if you're being underestimated, if your presence in a room isn't being felt, then maybe you're able to observe things in a way that somebody else might. So I wanted to reclaim some of that invisibility for her.
That's an excellent point. I appreciate the insight to that. I think that having her kind of be invisible, as you say, is an asset. I love the way that you phrased that.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, I was like, oh, the little light bulb went on when you said that. That's a great way to describe that. It's an asset because she can sort of slip in and no one's paying enough attention to think or, you know, take it seriously, or so she could kind of be doing her thing without a lot of hassle and observation. And that's very, I like that. That's really great. I also wanted to say, when you were talking at the beginning, I never stopped to think about it before, that you're right. We all think of public libraries, and maybe some of us also think about, you know, academic libraries or maybe our kids' school libraries, but it's true. We hear about rare books and archives when there's usually been a theft, or if something, you know, maybe on the anniversary of something, or when they're doing something special, but definitely we see that. And it never occurred to me that because these items are not readily available and in everyone's mind, it might actually be kind of easy to steal something like that, because I mean, if you had access to it. And I'm sort of fascinated by that. You know, she goes to the safe, everybody expects it to be there, but it's not something that comes in and out of that safe a lot. And it's not something that many people would be like, oh, I wonder how that Bible is doing these days, you know? So I love that you kind of picked this thing that happens in real life. And it's just, that's fascinating to me. Did you ever come across anything like that where you worked, that there were things that had gone missing, or maybe suspicious things, anything suspicious happening that you can sort of give us some gossip on, or is it all made up?
I have to say, since I still work for the institution where I was a graduate student, I'm contractually obligated to say no, but no, in all seriousness, no. Also, I mean, I wouldn't have known I was a student, but I was really fascinated by these articles that I would read. And in writing the book, I did go back and I did as much research as I could, pulled newspaper clippings from decades. And because what I wanted, I wanted the characteristics of the person who would do something like this. Yes. And I wanted to know what would happen to the material after, because you're not able to resell this stuff.
Right. It's like famous paintings, right?
It's
that people
exactly like
people
famous
want
paintings.
them just to have them, even though they can't tell everybody they've got it.
It's exactly like that. You know, it's a pretty, you know, antiquarian booksellers, it's a pretty closed system. So if something's missing, they'll know. and they want to maintain good relationships with these public institutions because that's often who they're selling to. So they're not going to buy something stolen. So who are you going to sell this to? And really often you would learn, if somebody was finally caught, and the materials would just be in their apartment, under their bed, in a filing cabinet, on their bookshelf, and they just wanted to be near the materials. Interestingly though, so probably about a year ago, certainly after the book was sold, so while we were already, it was already in production, there was a story from Cambridge University that they admitted that 20 years ago, some diaries of Charles Darwin's had been stolen from their collection. And it took them 20 years to come clean. And it played out exactly the way that it does in the book. It's like sort of eerie that at first they said, "Ooh, probably just misshelved, right?" They sort of looked, yeah, misshelved. We'll look for them. And they, that
it's here somewhere.
Oh yeah. And that went on for 10 years. And then finally they admitted, yeah, it's been stolen, but it was kept an internal secret because we put so much trust in these institutions, rightfully so. I mean, they're doing a wonderful job preserving our collective history. And they need that trust to continue to do so and to continue to receive materials so that they can be preserved. And for reputation's sake, they just wouldn't admit this thing was stolen, wouldn't bring in law enforcement, and didn't for 20 years. And it was only, I think they had a change in leadership. I can't remember exactly what it was that made them finally say it. But then they said, "Ooh, sorry.
By the way,
please help us find this thing.
Please help us find this."
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, 20 years on, who knows? I mean, likely somebody will, the person who stole it will probably die at some point, and it'll be found. But really it played out exactly the way that it does in the book, that there's so much concern about reputation, rightful concern about reputation and what that would mean if you, as the person who's been in, or the institution that's been entrusted with these materials, allow them to go missing.
So that's fascinating how you really hit the nail on the head with that then.
Yeah, I was very proud of myself.
Yeah, you should be. You
felt terrible for the folks at Cambridge University. But.
Of course. Yeah, I suppose it's probably very similar to artwork and museum theft and that sort of thing. As you said, it's not like somebody can go and sell this. Most people probably couldn't even reveal it to anybody except maybe their very, very inner circle. You kind of be like, "Hey, look at this book that I've got." You can't just be, walking around with it. So that's an interesting, not something that you think of like a fancy, flashy theft type thing. It's more of a secret theft almost, right?
Exactly.
It can be secret because it's not something that's always on display to the public. So I'm fascinated by that. So I love all the detail that you've got in there. So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about you as an author. So I know one of the things that someone will probably put it in one of the questions, so I'm sorry if I'm stealing audience questions ahead of time here, but we love to know more about how authors write, basically. We want to know about how you do your craft. You've already told us you've had this idea sort of percolating for a while since where you've worked. You've told us a little bit about your character building. So tell us about your actual writing process. Do you wake up in the morning and set yourself a writing schedule? Do you write when you have time to write? Tell us what it's like to be Eva Jurczyk, author.
So so first of all, I should say that I'm a person who outlines, and I consider that part of the writing process, but I outline and I research differently than I write, because I can outline and research sort of at any time of day and with distractions and things going on. Like my kid can be playing and I can do that. And the outline in particular, I get pretty detailed. Like I'll know how many chapters I'm going to have. And so I'll say, there's 40 chapters, and I'll write probably a 1 line or 2 line of this is the stuff that happens in every chapter. And it takes me, a few weeks to get through that. But once it comes time to the actual writing, then I'm pretty boring in that I write every day, but not for very long every day. Okay. I wake up at 5:05 a.m. It has to be 5:05 because 5 a.m. would just be cruel. The 5:05.
Feels better.
Yeah, feels better. And I write, and it's really not very much, like 300, 400 words a day. It's very little, except for the fact that it's every day. So
it builds
So,
up.
so it builds up. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then one day a week, I have a non-parenting morning where I get to write, I'll do it for a couple hours. Yeah, but it's really just from 5:05 until 6, and I have breakfast in that period too. So I just write and I do my breakfast. And I have tried writing longhand, and it just takes too long. So I've switched back to typing because it
Okay.
just makes more sense. And I think that I write pretty fast. I will usually get a first draft out in maybe 6 months or so. And then it's another 4, and that's a really messy first draft. But I really like, the Rare Books isn't the first book that I've written. It's just the first one that's sold. I have a desk drawer novel, like everyone else who writes. And I wanted to be a writer from the time that I was a kid.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily think that I would write fiction, but I knew that I wanted to write. And I had a lot of false starts and things like that. And it wasn't actually until I became a parent that I was able to finish something. And I think that I finally was able to put pressure on myself in the right way. And I was finally able to use my time in a way that was really effective. I have another writer friend or acquaintance who was posting the other day, he writes from 9 till 2 every day. 9 till 2. And on one hand, I'm so jealous of that, but on the other hand, I don't know that it would make me more productive. Like, I don't know that I would do more. So it was really the having to force is saying, well, you only have an hour every day, because in an hour, kid's going to wake up, your time's going to go away, you're not going to be able to focus. So this is the only time you have. That has made me, I think, a lot more productive. So I'll bang out that first draft, and I sort of got away from myself. The first time
This is the good stuff right here.
okay. Yeah, it was the first time that I finished a first draft of something, when I actually got to the end, when I wrote, 80,000 words or whatever it was. Like, oh, I can do this, because this was the hard part.
Okay.
And it was just the finishing something. So I'd started so many things. I have notebooks full of started things that never went anywhere. Looking around like they're going to be right here. They're not. They're in storage. I live in an Airbnb right now. But it was the act of finishing was the most powerful thing. And even though that book didn't sell, the next one was so much easier to write, because I thought I can write a full book. Because, and when I've spoken with people since I've been able to say, oh, I wrote a book, it's going to be available in stores, really often that's the thing that people admire, like, you wrote a whole book, sat down and typed that many words, and sort of this mental block that you have. And once I overcame that and realized I can write a full thing, and I know how long it'll take, the world changed. So once I have that first draft, it's probably another 3 or 4 months making it into something that's good, that somebody would actually want to read. So then I'll do a few more passes, and I just keep doing it from start to finish. I know other people like to do things piecemeal and go back to piecemeal, but I really need to do it start to finish. I need to remember that my memory is not good. I have a terrible memory. So I need to actually be able to read it in order to know that I'm not messing something up, and to know that everything makes sense. So that's me, 5:05 to 6 a.m. every day. I mean, sometimes it's shorter. I'll hit the snooze. Sometimes I take a little longer and putt around and make my breakfast. Sometimes the Wordle takes me a little long.
Right. Sometimes those characters don't wake up at the same time you do. So
yeah, exactly. But I have to say, I'm not a person who gets blocked. I mean, I'm saying that sometimes I only write like 100 words in a day, so maybe I do get blocked, but I find that really useful. And that doesn't work for everyone. There are some people who prefer to write in sprints. And that could work, or need that longer period of time, or write sometimes and then not others. I worry that if I took a break for an extended period of time, not just a break in a project, but even between projects, I'm always working on something. I would I forget how to do it? Like, would I just forget how to do it all together? So I've been really nervous. I don't take a break longer than a few days if I can avoid it.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think every author is different, and we love sort of getting that inside scoop on how you run. So I love that. And that's
I love
fascinating to me that you're like, oh, I don't want to take a break because I might forget what I'm doing. I feel like my brain probably works that same way. And if I didn't do something, on a regular, consistent basis, then it just kind of goes away, and it's more like a hobby then at that point, right? And you think you're going to pick it back up. So this is career worthy. So that's really great. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right, so we are just about ready for our trivia. But before we get to that, I have one final question for you from us, which is, so you have worked around many rare books. Now, we will not hold you to anything. What's said on Zoom stays on Zoom. But if you had the opportunity and were inclined to steal a rare book, is there one in particular that you've got your eye on?
So I sort of have to change my answer to this because somebody asked me this question in October one of these, and I said,
Okay.
which was true, that I collect Alice in Wonderlands.
Okay.
Not super fancy or expensive ones, but I've always really liked them. And there was one that I have a reprint of that's illustrated by Rolf Steadman, who's the guy who did the illustrations for Hunter S. Thompson's work. That's what he's most famous for. So if you can think of the cover of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas,
I'm picturing it right now, actually. Yes.
Then you know his illustrations. And so I have this reprint, and I said that I would love a first edition. And if I were too close to one, that I might sneak it into my purse. And on the day that my book was published, I came into my kitchen and saw this on my dining room table. And hold on, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to show you one of these insane illustrations. Let's see if I can find one. So here's.
Oh, wow.
Here you go. They're really nuts.
Yes.
And so it's not stolen. My husband showed me the receipt. He just bought it off ABE Books.
Like, this was a valid purchase.
Yeah.
I have proof of ownership.
Yeah. Now that I've said publicly that I'd like to steal it, now I keep the receipt filed with it.
Smart.
I have to think of another answer because somebody was listening when I gave that answer, and I got this as a pub day present.
That's so nice. I love it. That's a great present. See, speak it into the universe and it shall appear, right?
Exactly.
All right, so let's ask our audience kind of those same questions. So we're going to transition into our poll portion. So as we all know, Department of Rare Books and Special Collections is full of rare books that readers love to salivate over. So we're going to take a poll of which rare books you would like to add to your collections. So in just a moment, our friends at Source Books will start popping up. Oh, there's one right there. There's our poll for us. So your task, there are no right answers here. We just want to see what you would all pick, what the majority is. So we're going to find out which one of these books you would love to add to your collection, steal. For Facebook Live participants, you guys can't use this poll, but you can answer in the comments there, and our moderators there will slip it over to this poll for us. And remember that each time there's going to be 3 of these that'll come up. Each one you answer, you'll get an automatic entry into our mystery prize pack. So there's question 1, and we'll have 2 and 3 come up in the background as well. While you are all thinking about what books you would like to extended loan, how about we say that instead of steal?
I like that.
Right? We'll take it on extended loan. I'm going to have Eva tell us what she is currently reading and recommending right now. So tell us about some of the books that you're into right now.
Sure. So I just pulled the stack off my nightstand and I brought it over here.
Nice.
So the
love.
one that I'm actively, you can see my bookmark in it right now, is Aftershocks by Nadia Owusu. And so this is nonfiction, and you sort of think that nonfiction is going to be a little bit more work because this is a memoir, but it is, I mean, I'm flying through it, and it's such a page turner, and I deeply love it, and the writing is so good, and the construction is really cool, so I would recommend that. A book that I'm not flying through, not because it's not a great book, but because I bought it in French. This is William Boyle, who's a mystery writer. The book is City of Margins. I bought the French copy because I loved the cover. His French covers are really wonderful. My French is terrible, but I'm trying to improve it.
I was just going to ask, can you read it in French? Okay.
I mean, it's taking a very, very, very long time. I probably should have picked something much simpler, but you know what? We're here to challenge ourselves. The Widening Stain by W. Bolingbroke Johnson, which is another library mystery that somebody recommended to me in one of these things. And I've just read the beginning, and it's actually quite similar to my book. So it's really fun, great sense of humor, would recommend. Just finished. Obsessed.
Oh yeah, that's getting a lot of press right now.
Yeah, I was sick one day last week, and so when I say that I read this feverishly, I can't tell if it was the actual fever that I had or it was the book, but I would recommend this book. It's so great. And then lastly, I haven't started this yet. I read A Gentleman of Moscow by Amor Towles. I have not read The Lincoln Highway. This and the Nadia book are off of Barack Obama's annual book list. And you know what? Him and I just have really similar taste in books. He never steers me wrong. So I'm going to be cracking this one next. So that's on my current nightstand.
That's great. Thank you for sharing those with us. Everyone always likes to see what our authors are reading. All right, so the third question is up there and they've closed it. So shortly they'll pop those up so we can see what everybody wants. So let's see here. Out of the first group, let's see who won there. The Shakespeare's First Folio got a little bit higher than the Gutenberg Bible or the signed edition of Harry Potter. All right. How about question 2? What did we pick from there?
I would have voted the First Folio too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well ahead of the race there is The Tale of Peter Rabbit, first edition. Okay. Great. The Declaration of Independence. I like that. I'm just gonna casually have that in my office for a while, right? And then
the Audubon.
John James Audubon. Yep.
Great choice. I've never seen one of those in real life. We don't have one. We don't have one at the Toronto Library, but I would love to. That's just a beautiful piece.
All right. Well, that was very fun. Thanks for sharing all of your extended loans with us, folks.
Yeah, thanks for voting.
Right. Sounds very cool. So let's get into some Q&A from our wonderful audience. So I am picking questions here. And I think the first one that I'm going to have, this one comes from Donna, who wants to know if your career as a librarian has helped transitioning into becoming a writer. Other than the book's library setting, did anything about working around books, working in the library, prepare you for being a writer?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it is, in some practical ways. So I should say I'm still a librarian, fiction don't pay what it used
forever.
To. Yeah, librarian forever. And I love, it would take a lot for me to get me to leave my job. I really love it. Helped in some practical ways. I mean, it's nice having access to all those resources and just being able to look up anything that you want to look up. I mean, in a really practical way, when you talk to other writers, and research, I think, is such a big part of the work. Even when you're writing fiction, it's such a big part of it. And so it's both having access to everything that I need. It's helpful to work at a research library, frankly, but also knowing how to do the research, which is what, my running joke is I have a master's degree in Googling. And I mean, that's a simplification, but I do know how to find the answers to those questions in a way that somebody else would have to go to a librarian for. And when I don't, there's no barrier to entry. So I was looking for some legal documents for something that I'm researching. And rather than having to go to a law library, I mean, especially now that would be a little bit tougher, I could just email Alexia from the law library who I go and say, hey, I don't know how to access this type of legal document from Virginia, help me. So it is like, research is such a big part of, like I said, even fiction, and knowing how to do that work, I think, has been the biggest asset in terms of the things that I share between the two careers, knowing how to look for information.
All right. That's an excellent answer. I love that. I think, every time I chat with authors, they always talk about research, whether it's fiction or not. And that is interesting because not everybody has research skills, innate there. It's something you have to learn and pick up somewhere. And so, right, librarians, that's our thing. It's what we do. And so it kind of comes naturally.
Yeah.
And I think that people think that, well, you're a book person, you must read everything. And so, yes, of course, the more you read, that also kind of helps you, how to structure a book, what you like as a reader. And so I think
exactly.
that's kind of a natural pairing like that. So, all right, great. Thank you. So let's see here. We have another question from, from Carly, who would like to know, this dovetails very nicely with research. So did you research or read a lot of stories about rare book thefts when writing this book? And were any particularly influential in your process?
So I did. Like I said, there was a big, a lot of me and LexisNexis and those, and mostly and actually the archival newspaper databases, and I spent a lot of time with those. I have a file on my computer with all the clippings that I did. So I spent, once I'd outlined the book before I started writing, I wrote that. Mostly, some of it was just to confirm what I already thought, because like I said, I'd been interested in this idea for a long time, and I'll always read, if the New Yorker is publishing something about that, I'll always gravitate to those pieces because I find it really interesting. So yeah, and the things that what was the second part of the question? Did I do research?
Was there any particular story of a theft that was influential in the process?
Oh, there's one. I wish I could remember the specific details. Oh, I'll email you personally, Carly,
Okay.
and let you know after. But there's one that's from the 1950s or 60s. I think it was from Harvard. And it was, again, just a gentleman who worked there, who stole, I can't remember exactly what the value was, but he stole, it was over decades he was stealing from them. And he lived in a really modest apartment near Harvard, and he just brought the books home, and he had them at home. And yeah, I should have this at hand, the details of that specific story, but I thought that one was so interesting. So, not exactly the same as happens in rare books, because in rare books, it's, have we all read rare books? Can I say who the culprit is? Okay, so it's it's a person in authority, where this is, I think, was more administrative employee, but very much just was bringing these materials home for so long, and just to be with the books. And that was just one that really, that really stayed with me.
That is fascinating. Just to have those books around.
Yeah.
All right. So sort of piggybacking on what we had asked earlier, I've got a question here from Kelly, who would like to know a little bit more about how you made the transition from librarian to author. And we know you still have your day job, but did you imagine being a writer as a child? I have another question very similar to that. Someone would like to know if you've got a background in creative writing. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I did want to be a writer. I always wanted to be a writer when I grew up. I didn't know anyone who did that. And I'm an immigrant, so we're practical people. So saying, oh, I want to write books is not a job.
Very fanciful of you, right?
Yeah, no. We never said that out loud. So I always imagined that I would write nonfiction, that I would write for a newspaper or something like that, or for magazine pieces. So that's what I studied. I studied journalism, and thought, great. I'm like, okay, I graduated from school. I'm like, now the New Yorker is going to give me a job, right? That's how it works, right? Nothing wrong with that plan. And so obviously that didn't happen, because that's not how it works. And I finished that degree in 2007 or 2008, or just not an auspicious time for print journalism. And I knew, and I did, that's what I wanted to do, print journalism. And so so fiction wasn't in there at all.
Okay.
And so I thought then I had to figure out what to do. Puttered around for a few years, tried some different things. Was mostly a bartender, actually. Knew some people who had gone to library school, and so I had to start thinking, what can I do for a forever job? And obviously I loved libraries. They'd been a big part of my life for my whole life. I thought, okay, I'll go to library school, but I will only go to library school if I promise myself that I will keep writing. I have to promise. And I was in library school, but I was also still bartending to pay pay to live, and then working quite a lot at the Rare Books Library once I started there. So not a lot of writing happened while I was in school. Still didn't happen. And so on the day that I graduated, I walked across the street from where I lived to a tattoo parlor, and I got them to give me a giant, really big tattoo of a pen on my torso. So I thought, okay, here's the deal that I'm going to make with myself. If I never become a writer, then I'm going to have this ridiculous tattoo that I'm going to have to explain away for the rest of my life. But if I can sell even one significant piece of writing, then this tattoo will make sense and I won't feel silly. So
I love it. That's perfect.
So then I started working away at it, still thinking really that I would work in nonfiction. So I started writing book reviews, things like that. Just anyone who would let me. I wrote for the Rumpus, for the All, just pitched freelance stuff a little bit. Then it was really only then that I started thinking about fiction. But that's when I would start writing things and never finishing them. So I started writing lots and never gone anywhere, and started writing lots and never gone anywhere. And then I got pregnant with my child, and I thought, well, if you can make a whole person in 9 months, you should be able to write a book in 9 months. So that was my plan. Then I was going to write a book in 9 months. But unfortunately, I spent that 9 months sleeping because being pregnant makes you really tired. So I didn't write a book. And so, but then my son was born, and I had to spend 8 hours a day or whatever it is with a newborn nursing him. So the first fiction project that I finished, I wrote longhand with child in one arm, a paper in the other, and that's how. And like, it's not very good. It didn't sell, but it taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
And I was able to sort of iterate on that. And I pitched that, I tried to sell it, and I got feedback on that. And in the meantime, the sort of book reviews and things that I'd been doing, I got feedback on those, and I was edited, and I learned what was strong about my writing and what didn't work. And so I just kept working with whatever little feedback I had and trying to make something stronger. And actually, Rare Books, everything about this process was easier than it should have been. I mean, wrote the book probably start to finish and got in a year, started pitching agents for it. I had pitched agents with other books with very little success, got an agent for this one really quickly.
Okay.
My agent sent this out to Source Books, and I think like that day or the next day, Anna at Source Books sent her a message back saying that she thought that she wanted it. So, I mean, this has been a little bit of a fairy tale, but it's a fairy tale at the end of a long stretch of uncertainty.
Right. That's like the whole, the undiscovered brand new debut, whatever, that has been toiling away at something for 10 years in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. We love that kind of insight. So I have several people asking sort of the same questions, so I'll kind of bundle it all together. So everybody, of course, would like to know if you are currently working on another book, and most folks would like to know, if you are we going to see any of these characters again, or might you think about making this some kind of a series, or if not a series with the same character, how about things set in libraries? Tell us a little bit about your future plans. We won't hold you to anything, don't worry.
So there's a lot of questions, especially there, so I'll do my best.
I can split them up if you'd like. Do you want me to go back?
I think I got it. You can tell me if I've missed anything. So am I currently working on anything? Yes. Okay. I'm working on something sort of long suffering that I started writing before I started Rare Books, and I've gone back and forth, and I have a version of it that I like quite a bit now, and it is very different. It's not a mystery. It's a piece of sort of speculative fiction set in Eastern. Yeah, so it's set in Eastern Europe in the 1980s, and it is about a family who is trying to flee the country where they live because in that country the sun doesn't shine, and they're trying to get to a country where there is sunshine. So it's about family and the refugee experience, and about food. It's about food there's a lot of food in it. So that's one that I've been tinkering with for a really long time that I am quite happy with where it is. So I hope that that will be out in the world sometime soon in the future. And I've forgotten all the other parts of the question.
Then the other part of it, no problem. I threw a lot at you and I talked really quick. So no surprise there that you didn't catch that all.
The other characters.
Yeah. Are we going to see any of these friends again? Or if not these characters, would you think about maybe setting future books also in archives or libraries, sort of like a themed thing?
So the Eastern Europe one does have a pretty strong library and book component without going too far.
That will make people very happy.
Yeah, in a way that I think is really cool and exciting. I'm happy with where it is. In terms of these characters, so I have to say I write pretty fast, so I have a lot of not a lot, but I have a couple of completed manuscripts, and one of the characters in rare books, I don't want to say who, is a very minor character in another book. They appear again in a way that I think is really fun. So I like the idea of, if I can, because of time, something set in the 1980s wouldn't necessarily work, but if I can in sort of time, I like the idea of scattering some breadcrumbs for readers in the way, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the full oeuvre of Emily St. John Mandel, but if you know her books, you know that it's not that she's writing about the same characters, but really minor characters. Some major characters. I mean, the character of Miranda from Station 11 is in a bunch of the books, but they sort of reappear, not in a way. And if you didn't know that, then it would not take anything away. It would not take anything away from your experience. But if you do know, then it's such a lovely treat.
Special treat, yes.
So I like the idea of doing that. If I were to revisit this world, these lovely folks, then I think, and I don't have any real plans for this because I haven't wrapped my way around, my head around what is an interesting story to tell, but I think that I would actually, it wouldn't be what happens next, it would be what happens before.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. I think I would explore that, because I think these characters have a lot of shared history, which we sort of dipped into, but it would be fun to spend a little bit more time. And I don't know when or with which character. I haven't thought about that, but I am very interested in the before.
All right, excellent. I think that's fun. I have a lot of comments coming through here. You'll get to read the comments also after. We have one of our friends with us tonight, Miriam, is apparently a specialist in rare books and archives. So she's got a lot of little anecdotes here in the chat. So make sure afterwards that you get to see her little comments about that. Thank you for sharing those things with us, Miriam. That's fascinating. We also have a couple people, when we were talking about what books we might like to steal, several of our friends, being librarians, went to go find out how much some of these things were worth. So we've got some very interesting chit chat about Bill Gates buying something for $40 million and, et cetera. So that's kind of fun everybody likes these little, trivia tidbits like that. Yeah. So thanks for sharing all those things with us, folks. Let's see, we've got questions coming through, and I just want to make sure we're getting close to the end of time, so I don't want to take up too much, but there were definitely some things here. Okay, we've got one from Donna, who is just curious to know, if you could spend a day with another author, living or deceased, who would you love to chat with?
So I have an answer to this, and this is someone who's not traditionally considered, she's not traditionally considered an author, but she's better known as a filmmaker, but I love her fiction, and it's Nora Ephron. Who just, I love heartburn so much. I love books about food. I'm really fascinated by food and fiction, and when you can do it well, and she does it so well, it's a lot of fun. I bet Nora would have just the best gossip, the best. So I would just love to, spend a day with her. And if you're thinking about who knows better than Nora about how to construct a story that folks want to read, whether it's a film or a book, she would be the perfect choice. We would have, we'd probably eat nothing. We would have martinis. We'd probably eat something. It's Nora Ephron, but yeah, we'd have too many martinis, and she would have tons of gossip, and she would tell me how to structure stories in a way that readers couldn't resist them.
That's wonderful. I love it. That sounds like a lovely daydream. That's
Yeah.
excellent. Excellent. All right, I think we can squeeze one more question in here. So let's see here. Oh, I just had one in my eyesight that I thought was very interesting. Where did it go? Ah, there's a lot of oh, here we go. Because we were just talking about thinking of movies made me think of that. We have a question from Michelle who wants to know if you have anyone in mind that you would want to portray Liesel in the movie, The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections. It's kind of a fun one.
Yeah, so this probably isn't the obvious choice for lots of folks, but my dream would be Diane Wiest.
Okay.
Because I think, she's like a really particular actor. She has the voice.
Yes.
Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but I think for portraying that sort of character who is trod upon, but is actually a lot tougher than you think. For portraying that sort of particular type of intelligence, I don't know, Wiest would be perfect. And as a bonus, I would love for Sarah Polley to direct the film.
Oh, there you go. We get the bonus director too.
Yeah, because she, her films, if you have stories we tell, she's directed about the nature of memory in a way that I think is interesting. And one of her favorite films of mine, which I don't think a lot of people have seen, is called, oh my God, I can't remember the title. I want to say Shall We Dance, but it's not. That's like a Richard Gere movie. But it stars Seth Rogen and Michelle Williams and Sarah Silverman. You can look it up, and it is the most accurate Toronto movie that I've ever seen. In terms of the color palette, it's Toronto in the summer. It's a particular neighborhood, and it evokes the sort of sweaty, wonderful, colorful Toronto summers perfectly. So I believe that she could do Toronto on film properly, and I believe that she could do the sort of points of view of the characters really perfectly.
That's great. You've already got that planned out. I love it. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's awesome. All right, I think we will go ahead. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, see, like I said, we are going to put it out there in the universe, and then this all shall happen. So exactly. I've decided that that's how this is going to work now. Great. All right. So I'll be your date for the Oscars then, and we will be all set.
Perfect. I'll see you there.
Right. Oh, we've got a suggestion that if Diane Wiest is busy, maybe Helen Mirren could do it.
Ooh, that could be good too.
That would be, I think that's a good choice too. Excellent. We'll all go to the Oscars with you guys. That's great.
Nice.
Well, I think that's probably a good note to end it on. Thank you so much. It's really been delightful chatting with you. It was delightful reading the book. We're so thrilled that it's had such great success for you. Congratulations. That's really fantastic. Congratulations on being a Library Reads pick. Yay. Thank you for the gift of your book. That is a wonderful thing to have out there in the world. So thank you so much, Eva, for spending your evening with us. Thank you to our lovely audience for participating tonight. We do have the winners chosen in the chat. Let's see here. I just saw those names pop up. So Kelly Steck, Pam Brown, and Morella Ince. If you can email Emily Ludoff at sourcebooks.com with your address, you can get your prize pack. So thank you so much for participating. Make sure to join us for next month's Mystery at the Library event. The next one is going to be Wednesday, March 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be talking to J.P. Smith, author of The Summoning, an engrossing thriller with a touch of paranormal. So we're going from realistic library fiction to paranormal stuff. So make sure that you register for that. The RSVP link, if it hasn't appeared yet, will be up quickly in the chat there, so you can get there with that. Thank you once again, Eva, for your time tonight.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed chatting with you. Love finding kind of the inside story into what makes your book special, and so I really appreciate you sharing that kind of stuff with us. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And let's all start that Diane Wiest campaign.
I love it. I love it. We are going to make this happen. I swear. We have we have put it out there in the universe, and now it shall be so. So there we go. And with that, I say good night. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.